Hello and welcome to this week's Peach State Power Hour presented by UGAsports.com and M. Jones Heating and Cooling. I'm your host, Paul Maharry, joined alongside Andy, Stowe, and Eddie from Acworth. We appreciate you joining us on this Sunday evening. We're crying a little bit about the Falcons, not too much, but we're really a little sad about these Georgia Bulldogs. We'll dive into what happened in the game and also UGA basketball, the Atlanta Falcons, and Georgia just got a big-time commit from two brothers that will be coming to play for Georgia. So we'll dive into their background and what all they did while they were at USC. Before we get started on the show, though, guys, I'd be totally remiss if I didn't bring up the passing of Kirby Smart's father, Sonny Smart, passed away while down in New Orleans, broke his hip and then surgery, and it just didn't work out for him. And prayers to Kirby and his family, and also the terrorist attack that happened in New Orleans while Georgia and Notre Dame were in town. So just overall, this is fun for us. This is a great time, but glad that, everything is now taken care of and we can hopefully try and heal from that as best as we can. So if it's your first time watching, let us know where you're watching from in the chat box over there. If it's your 50th time watching, let us know you're here too. See, Chris Taylor just said, "What's up, fellas? Good evening." We got CT in the building. I know it's going to be a crazy show with him. So there we go. We're ready to rock and roll. But before we get going, Andy, how was your weekend?
Well, I mean, outside of Georgia losing, that was the biggest thing. I never even thought that was going to happen. I didn't think it was a possibility. I thought we were going to win that game easy. So, it's a little sad, but I guess we'll live to see another day.
Eddie, what you got? How was your weekend, my friend?
Well, good. I hadn't seen you guys since Christmas, right? Because we were off last week. So hope y'all had a good New Year.
It was actually a really joyous 10 days.
Yeah, you didn't get to see our faces. I know it. Well, I'll just reiterate condolences to the Smart family. I don't know how Kirby Smart does his job as it is. And then with that swirling around in the back of his mind during the game, I don't know how he coaches. So, it's just horrible losing a parent. And then secondly, that terror attack really hit close to home because, as y'all know, I'm from there. I got tons of family there. My family doesn't go to Bourbon Street. Locals just don't do that, but especially at 3 a.m. But not only for the families that lost somebody, it's awful. And then you got 35 people injured on top of that. But think about just what this jackass did and caused is all the people that saw this, or, our people that were down there, Roddy Nabolsi, that were close to it, just seeing mangled body parts on the street,
laying in the street. People dead.
This kind of thing, if you didn't get hurt and you're lucky, it stays in your mind forever, right? It changes everybody that was involved with it. So it's just horrific. I hope he rots in hell. How about that?
Yeah. All right. Well, there we go. Great to start off with the show there, Eddie. And I agree with you there, bud. Georgia lost to Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl, guys. It's been, how long has it been, Andy?
4 days. 4 days, I guess. It was Thursday.
4 days?
Yeah, 3.5.
Yeah, something like that. 23-10. Now that it's, I don't know if we've passed the are we past the mourning phase and in the angry phase now? Like where are you at now, Andy? Are you pissed off about this? Are you still upset that it happened? I will only say this one time on the show. I tried to warn both of you.
You did. But what you were warning us about was not necessarily the problem. You talked about Riley Leonard, talking about just run all over. And he did go 14 for 80. I'll give him that. He did run pretty good, but the dude only threw for 90 yards. So if you would have told me that the Georgia Bulldogs would have held them to 90 yards passing. Let's go back before the game starts. And I say Riley Leonard throws 90 yards passing. You say the Dogs win by
10.
Or at least. And that's the thing. So that's what's so crazy. Like you look at the box score, you see Gunner. I know he didn't, look like Stetson out there, but Gunner had a really good game. I mean, he did well, and we just couldn't get any running going, and we beat them pretty much everywhere except where it counts. So I guess I'm still sort of in the mourning stage, kind of confused as to what happened, and there's a couple of things I'm upset about, like the offensive line being very, very elementary that game.
Before we go to Eddie's reaction there, Chris Taylor has a good one here. It says, quote, "It caught up with us. That's my feeling." It's a pretty good feeling kind of around this program in general, especially this game.
The
After the
things,
season,
the things that we've been seeing all year, like I think that's what Chris is alluding to. It's like, okay, it got us, it bit us, and it bit us in the roughest spot. So,
yep. What you got, Eddie?
Well, just to bounce off what you said, Andy, if I had told you guys last week that Gunnar Stockton, who we were kind of nervous about, we didn't know how he was going to do, would have just as many yards almost as the entire Texas team, we'd have been okay with that because he did pretty well. Yeah, he did pretty doggone well. But I wrote in my notes, it's funny, CT put it up there and Andy just said it. I wrote, we saw this coming. Now, we didn't want to admit it. Paul did a little bit, but drops, penalties, missed timely tackles. We can't get 2 yards when we need it on 3rd or 4th down. This was a problem all year long. It was slow starts every time you turned around. We couldn't get out of our own way. Guys, this team did not put together 4 quarters of good football. In fact, this team didn't put together 3 quarters of good football. There were 2 here and there, a half here and there. We did none of that. You got to play 4 good quarters of football, especially when you play an opponent like Notre Dame, who seems to have your number on the offensive or on the lines of scrimmage at that point. So
here's the other thing with that, Eddie, is which kind of baffles the mind even more is with you saying they didn't put together 4 quarters of football. Somehow they still won the SEC championship. They beat Texas twice. One of the hardest schedules. We talked about Florida's schedule being hard. Georgia's was up there with it. And
for sure.
I think Georgia's probably surpassed Florida's in terms of how the teams ended up ranking out. Your quarterback goes down right before, you go to the playoffs. I mean, it just was a crazy, crazy season. And again, somehow, and this isn't Kirby Smart's most talented team.
No.
And I think he's even maybe said that in a press conference once or twice, but he said it's his most resilient team. And I tend to lean on that. I mean, these guys, but the problem is to be resilient, these other teams didn't have to be resilient because they just whooped ass, if that makes sense. They need to have resiliency and have that fight in them because they would just dog a team by the second half, second quarter, the 3rd quarter. And there was no need for resiliency when you're beating a team 38-3.
Yeah.
That's the other flip of the coin of that too, is you can call the team the most resilient team you've had, but there's a reason that they had to be resilient.
Yeah, because they were playing from behind for most of the time. But that's the thing, Paul, that gets that where I was at. I was like, okay, we've seen this all year long. And I know that we lost to Alabama and Ole Miss, but it was like we won the SEC, had all these injuries, all these things. And I was like, of course we're going to beat Alabama with that. And really, if you take away 2 minutes of that football game, just 2 minutes. And I know you can't take it away. If you can do that, God, we'll win every national title from here till the end of time. But you take away 2 minutes, we beat them everywhere except for those 2 minutes. And that's the thing. Maybe that was poor coaching decision at the end of the half. Instead of saying, okay, let's just try to go at the very least down 6-3, try to get a little greedy. But then on the flip side, we'll sit here and say, oh, they're so vanilla, they're not trying to be aggressive. So there's the double-edged sword. Because really think about it. If somehow they hit a big play and they go and get 6, they go to halftime leading, we'd be like, oh, it's the greatest call ever. So it's one of those things. But really, outside of 2 minutes, we should have won the game, and we just didn't. So that's why I'm just like, okay, I'm sad and I'm disappointed, but I'm like, you know what? It's not like the sky's falling. I'll just leave it. I'll go with that. We're not.
Andy, you put your high water mark at talking about the Bama game. Bama lost 4 games.
I know
they were not that good this year.
They weren't.
They just seem to have our number. It's just ridiculous. Paul, you brought this up on the PO, so I'm going to expand on it a little bit. When this team got started in the summer, Kirby Smart said one of the leaders of the team was Travis Etienne, right? He had been with the team 2-3 months. I don't know. Yeah. That was not good in my mind to start.
He got here in the summer, I believe.
Okay. Yeah. And then what happens next? He has off the field issues. And there were a bunch of off the field issues. And we're all looking around going, what is going on, guys? And that just kind of encapsulates this year. I'm not saying Georgia as a whole has a culture issue, but this team had a culture issue.
Yeah. Well, what does that mean, though? Okay, so what do you do?
Well, they didn't have a leader. Who was the leader? I mean, we found out later in the year it was Tate Ratledge and Jalen Walker, but Tate Ratledge was out a bunch of games, right? Jalen Walker seemed to disappear through half the year. I don't know what he was doing. He'd show up here and there, and then he'd just disappear. So a leader like a Roquan Smith or a Nick Chubb doesn't disappear for a year or several games. right?
Yeah, I talked about it on the POS and I kind of brought it up kind of briefly, but yeah, I totally agree with you. It's something was off with this team. And if you watch our shows every week and if you follow the Georgia Bulldogs, and I'll say it again, I'll say it a million times. If you want to find out what's going on with the program, just listen to Kirby Smart's press conferences. He'll tell you he'll tell you what's going on, but you got to listen.
Yeah.
And you could tell just throughout the season that something wasn't clicking with this team. And I don't know how you fix that, right? I'm not getting paid millions of dollars to fix that. We're going to discuss a little bit what we think some changes could happen, and maybe that can help, right? But it was Marshmut makes a great point here. It says team was a schizophrenic enigma. Yeah, I mean it was.
Well,
I mean,
well
it's just
said.
you didn't know what was coming out of the locker room quarter to quarter, much less game to game. You didn't know what you were going to get, and you had that weird stretch there in the middle where Carson threw it felt like 1,000 interceptions, but then he got back on track. You had the most drops in D1 this year by your wide receivers, which culminated with just the drop from Dylan Bell, which was just all right, there's we've seen this all season. The folks tuning into Georgia for the first time are like, man, how'd he drop that? It's like, well, it's just kind of what we've become accustomed to.
But and it's crazy. He had made that great snag just like a few plays before. It's like, dude, how did that happen?
Right. I think it was the next play or maybe the next series. I don't know. He makes the circus catch. I was like, see, there you go, Kelly. I said, look, we can't make the simple catch, but the circus catch we have no problem with.
There again, Marshmut, the schizophrenic enigma. You don't know what you were going to get with this team. You knew that there was something going on with the culture, and there just wasn't a leader that really truly stepped up throughout the whole year, in my opinion.
Well, let me ask you this, Paul. Can the leader be an offensive lineman? Can the leader be a guy that is not quote? And I know
wasn't Cedric Van Ran a hell of a leader for us?
Yeah. And he was, and he touched the ball, but that's what I was. My next point was, can it be a guy that doesn't touch the ball?
Okay, that's fair.
Ever or all obviously the quarterback touches it every play, the center touches it every play, but can a right guard be the leader? I mean, maybe he can. I don't know. It's just.
I think it's more based on personality. I get what you're saying, and if you go look in the NFL, is already the teams led by right guards,
right? It's the quarterback, it's maybe the halfback, it's the middle linebacker. It's
a great defensive end.
It's that. So that's what that's a. And I mean, that's not a shot at any of those guys.
No, it's not. It's just if your leader's your right guard, and again, he might be an amazing leader.
He might be.
He just announced he's going to the NFL. I think he's going to have a really good NFL career.
Oh yeah, I agree.
He's going to get paid.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, because you talk about Brock Bowers was sort of the silent leader last. He wasn't as rah-rah. Look at this guy. Not rah-rah Thomas. Just out there. But look at him. He's just went over. I mean, he has the most catches in NFL history for a rookie now, and so it's we're missing. I think we're missing that because. With Ratledge, the offensive lineman, you're not seeing a guy on the stat board. They're not in the face of it. And I know, and obviously Ratledge is one of those funny guys. He's crazy. He seems like a good guy, but it's I don't know. It's just a little different, I guess, for me with it not being the quarterback or the pass catcher or something.
Jennifer Walton says, totally agree. I worried when all the racing arrests happened. How can guys do that knowing they just lost a teammate? First time we haven't had a QB leader in Kirby Smart's tenure. She hit the nail on the head right there with everything. It's total. Yeah. And that's the quiet part nobody wants to say out loud, right? It's the racing arrest right after losing a teammate and losing a staff member. And it turned into this almost national laughing stock at one point.
It wasn't a police thing, but you even got Carson Beck and his Lamborghini taken off, and it's on film. I mean, what are you doing here, guys?
Right. It's just a lack of awareness.
Exactly.
Again, so it's just it's one of those things that now we can turn the page on, right? Hopefully, and move forward. I know that the team with the passing of Sonny Smart has really rallied around Kirby, and sometimes things like that can recenter a group of young, individuals when their leader is having to go through something and it's oh, this is real life. I'm having to watch him go through this. And then it turns into real life. It's not just NIL money and cars and do whatever you want. So, hopefully if something good comes out of it, it's that.
I see a lot of people mentioning mentioning Carson Beck and the Lamborghini. And I'm not saying it's just the Lamborghini, but a lot of those comments are talking about the team didn't necessarily back Beck maybe, but then you saw immediately when Gunner was named starting quarterback, they were talking about he doesn't need the flashy cars. He's good with the old trucks. And even Kirby kind of made a statement. He was like, the team supports him more. And I don't know if he meant it.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a Freudian slip, right?
Like it was weird. And that's what, and maybe because we saw with Stetson Bennett, everybody on that team, they were behind Stetson. And it's just like, I don't know. Maybe there's something to it.
Maybe the next quarterback just doesn't buy a Lambo.
Yeah, just wait till you get to the end, save all that money, put it in the bank, and then drive that 1985 F-150.
Get you the nicest apartment there is in Athens, where you can flex that way. Get you an apartment over there, wherever the nice ones are now. They've changed since I was in school, and definitely changed since Eddie was in school. Good God.
I should have apartments now. So.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Eddie slept in a tent over there out the Oconee River.
I didn't have to sleep there, but that's when they threw your diploma in the window as you drove through.
Yeah,
so
they're like, oh, you want to give us money to get this piece of paper? Yes, please.
Yes, please. That's right.
Yeah. No, it's just and Mike Compton says he didn't buy it; it was a lease. You're correct, and he actually traded in for a Rolls Royce lease as well. So but the premise of it is even more still the same with that. Let's stop bashing them though. Let's get to the offseason changes though here. The M. Jones heating and cooling.
You want to go back to the other topic? You want to skip over that? Sorry, Paul. Did we see enough from Gunner to think he can start?
Oh,
what do you think about that, Paul?
I missed that. that. That's on me. Hey, that's what a good quality co-host does, baby. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is a big question, actually.
I know. That's why I wanted to address it.
Yeah.
Did you see enough, Paul? What do you think?
So the question is, if nobody heard Eddie because we were all talking, he says, did we see enough from Gunner to think he can be quarterback one in 2025? That is a loaded question. That is a completely loaded question. He made some really good throws.
He did.
His throw power is on 99. He's like Randy Johnson out there just throwing heat-seeking missiles.
He's definitely going to be highly rated in the next game with that throw power. So.
Yeah. Now the throw accuracy might be a little. So
he had a dime there, and that was a dime. He can do it.
Yeah,
he dropped that in the bucket. Yeah, that was.
Did I see enough from him to think he can be quarterback one in 2025? I saw enough, but that doesn't mean that he's walking into 2025 as the quarterback one. If that makes sense, I think they're going to let this actually be the true quarterback competition between him, Puglisi, and I think they're going to try to get. They almost have to now get another quarterback. Unfortunately, the portal has run dry. They kind of pushed all their chips in, and this is even more unfortunate circumstance. They pushed all their chips in on Fernando Mendoza. Yeah. The year before that, they pushed all their chips in on Raiola. Luckily, they got Puglisi out of it. The year before that, they pushed all their chips in on Arch Manning, and all three of those times struck out with those three gentlemen. So what now has to happen, right? If you go down the list of quarterbacks that are in the portal, and I might do it maybe later on the show and just kind of go through them, but there's nobody that I think can come in and take Georgia's number one spot.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Right? So what you're looking at here now is a scenario where you have Puglisi and Gunner fighting for the number one spot throughout the winter / springish.
Yeah.
And then that other portal opens up April 10th.
Right.
That's a tough ask to bring in. And there will be quarterbacks that are good that are in the portal, but it's also one of those things where you could look at it as a double-edged sword. Either the guy's entering the portal because he can't start his current team, and there's not many teams that are better than Georgia. So if you can't start at your other team, you probably can't start at Georgia.
Right.
Yep.
Or it's a guy that's just unhappy with the situation, wants to get a payday beforehand, right? And I'm sure there will be some guys like that, but it's going to be slim in terms of who's available.
Right.
And that's what's got me a little bit concerned about the quarterback position moving forward.
What about a coaching change? That's always a possibility. If, say, a head coach leaves, they get 30 days, right, to enter the portal. So
Sure.
Who knows what could happen?
So what you're talking? So what you're saying is the
who knows what?
So what Andy's referring to here? Let's just take the cloak off of this. Adam Schefter this morning on NFL, whatever they call it in the mornings, NFL Live, whatever, before the game started, said the NFL will be highly after Steve Sarkisian.
Mm-hmm. And who was that quarterback 3 years ago? 3 years ago, Georgia pushed those chips in on.
So if that's the case, and Sark leaves for the NFL, which very well could happen. I mean, he looks to me like an NFL coach.
He does.
He's been there before. So
he was the Falcons OC. That was. I mean, he was here. Yeah,
but he looks like an NFL head coach. Like he doesn't look like the type that wants to sit around and play these NIL games, even though he's got the cash right behind him that he can play with.
Mm-hmm.
Then it throws in like a whole. Good God, and I don't want to even start that rumor here on our show.
I'm just kind of joking, but yeah.
If that did happen, Arch Manning, I'm sure would probably look around Eddie, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree. Now I'm gonna say, did he show me enough to be quarterback one next year? No, no, he did not.
What more did you want to see? And I'm not disagreeing with you. What more did you want to see?
Okay. You mentioned the touch, Paul, and that one to Cash. I don't know how Cash didn't burn his fingers off. That thing was a bullet to him. Thank goodness he caught it. So the touch is not quite there yet. But how many times did we hear Kirby Smart when you and me and Andy would come on this show and rip Carson Beck, get this guy out of here? He's throwing picks all over the place. What did Kirby always go back to with Carson Beck? What did he always say? Carson gets us in the right plays over and over and over. Yeah. And the reason I pause about that is because I don't think Gunnar Stockton was getting us in the right plays very often. I think he was calling. I think maybe they gave him one or two plays, and he tried to do the best that he could, and he was limited with what he could do just because of his lack of experience. And I think that's where some of those, especially that blow-up play against ETN, I bet you Carson Beck gets us out of that play, and we don't take a fumble there. Maybe it's a sack or whatever, but we don't fumble there.
Okay.
So one more thing. Okay. Here's the other thing. I don't want my quarterback learning on the job next year. And that's what's going to happen with Gunnar Stockton, because you got to play Florida. These teams, they don't have to learn on the job. Florida, Texas, somewhat. Auburn, they got a good quarterback coming in, knows what he's doing. Mississippi State, right? Georgia Tech. Those are all experienced quarterbacks that know what they're doing. And I don't want to watch our quarterback learn on the job against those teams.
Well, if that's the case, who do you want the quarterback to be? Because if Sark doesn't leave, and I'm just using that,
right. That's so far.
Well, I mean, ideally, I want a transfer quarterback to come in and take his job, but I think Paul brings up a good point. It may not be out there, so we're gonna have to ride.
That's where I'm at. So, I understand the experience factor, but on skill alone, on arm strength, on mobility, on just straight up skill set alone, do you think he's good enough to be the leader of the Georgia Bulldogs?
I think so, but I think it's going to take some time. I don't think game one he's going to be raring to go. It's just going to take some time because he has no playing experience.
Right.
Here's the other thing too with that is the Bulldogs. It's 6 days after your final game, or five or six.
It's five, I think. Yeah,
it's 5, whatever. They can still have some guys enter the transfer portal, but other teams can as well. Mm-hmm. So Georgia wasn't the only team playing in a bowl game, these past few days. There's been multiple bowl games. Now the question is, tomorrow is probably the last big day of anybody announcing, right? Because most teams will have played their bowl game 31st, first. Who knows with the NCAA if they count weekends as actual days or if it's like business days,
They don't know either. So.
They don't know what targeting is, so why would they know that?
I would be very surprised if a kid came to him tomorrow and was like, "Yeah, I want to enter the portal." They're like, well, the 5 days ran out, and he's like, "Well, not technically." And if it did, then I'll just sue. Yeah, I'll just go find a local judge, and he'll turn that 5 days into 7 days, and then I can enter the portal. So there's no real time frame that exists, but there will be some more guys that are entering from Georgia tomorrow. But then also, if you can, and you can't talk to guys directly, right? That's tampering.
Yeah, sure.
But what you very well can do is you had a very good connection with that player's head coach in high school.
Yeah,
you can call him up. Hey man, what do you think? What do you think Andy Stowe's doing over there?
Yeah.
Well, you mind reaching out to Andy and seeing where his head's at? And if
there's back channeling going on. Yeah,
Kirby, of course.
Yeah. Kirby's not going to actually call the player, but he may say, "Hey, how's he feeling over there?" And
every coach is.
Sure.
You saw the Quinn Ewers thing where they're like, somebody's trying to give him $6 million to stay in college.
Right.
Which if I was Quinn Ewers, I'd be like, absolutely. Where is it? Sign me up. Where am I moving to? What city? What state?
Oh yeah, you pick the college, I'll be there. So,
yeah. You have a check for $6 million from me. I will be there. When does school start? Can't wait to go to economics for the 6th time again. Like
my favorite class.
101 too. 101.
Yeah, right.
You passed it. Yeah, I mean,
well, they say it won't transfer. Yeah, whatever. I'll take it again. No big deal, right? Can we do online though? Is it all right if we?
Yeah, that's right.
Sure.
Yeah,
do this online. So I don't know. Mike Compton says, so Eddie, it sounds like you want other teams to develop our quarterbacks and we never start our own players. I guess he's referring to your you don't want your quarterback learning on the job comment.
Yeah.
Well, sue me. I don't. I mean, I'm just nervous about playing these teams I just listed. Their quarterbacks aren't learning on the job. That's what gives me pause.
Yeah.
So, I understand what he's saying. We got to develop our own, but I don't know. It's
but also in this
his lack of experience and playing time is nil. I mean, he's done nothing.
In this era of transfer portal, if you go look at the quarterbacks that have stayed with a team, like Carson Beck is one of maybe 10 that stayed his whole career and actually played meaningful minutes for his school and put up big time stats. Like they're not out there anymore. So I get where Eddie's coming from. Saying, hey, we're Georgia. We're Georgia. We'll go take the best quarterback there is out there because why not? Like there's no reason not. I get, progressing your players, but at the same time, if there's a guy that's out there that wants to transfer, then let him go. Mr. Fly says Gunner is not as mobile as I thought, and his release is pretty slow. Release is fairly slow, but he can.
I think he's mobile, but he's mobile like Tebow, right? Where he's just like a fullback. He's not.
Yeah, he's not
like Jalen Milroe, where he's flying down the sidelines for 90 yards. That's not Gunner.
And Justin Farmer in the building there he is. What's going on, man?
And Eddie, to your point though, Notre Dame transfer quarterback, Ohio State transfer quarterback, Oregon transfer quarterback, Texas transfer quarterback.
Right.
So I mean, it's
the only one that didn't is Georgia and Penn State that were still left around.
Yeah, Colby Allard, or not Colby Allard. I keep saying Colby Allard, but
Colby Allard.
He pitched for the Braves. Yeah, he pitched for the Braves. It's Colby Allard. Yeah, but so it's the thing. It's like there's transfer and Illinois. I'm going through the list. They had their transfer quarterbacks. I mean, it's a ton of that. So I get your point. But again, it's like, is there a stud out there that we can go? I mean, Miami, they had Cam Ward. So yeah, I mean,
you can literally run down the list. Like I said, there was maybe 10 guys out of the top 50 or 60 best quarterbacks this year that developed with their own team.
But Mike's point and the way I see it is like we had, again, Stetson was here, he developed. We had Beck, he was here, developed. And that's the thing. You can't just. I don't think you can live by the free agent. But I don't know. Maybe
he's gonna. Rashad is gone, right? So we only have 3 on the roster as it is, and Kirby wants 4. So there's going to be another.
Well, you got 2 coming in, right?
Does he mean
Ezekiel?
Okay, I mean. A freshman counts. He's good with that. I don't know about that.
I don't think so. I think we go out. And
I don't either. Right. Right.
So just to kind of give you guys an update of the quarterbacks that are out there right now, and you might not even know some of these names that are left, right? Devin Brown, that number 33 for Ohio State.
Yeah, he was highly touted when they.
He was. He's out there, but he is also like the 200th ranked player in the transfer portal right now.
Jeez.
After that, you've got Brandon Rose from Utah. Never heard of him.
Nope.
He's down all the way to 362. You got Tyler Van Dyke.
Oh God,
played at Miami.
He goes all over. He went to Ohio State too, right? Or did he? Or
no, his picture looks older than you, Andy, and he's still in college. 370th ranked player. Again, the rest of these names: Emmett Brown, Giovanni McCoy, Joe Pazinski, J.J. Cole.
Yeah.
MJ Morris, he was from Carrollton, but he's 500. Like, there's not a quarterback out there, was what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Right.
That is going to come in and fight for the job right now. Right now against either one of them. So you got to look at Gunner, you got to look at Puglisi, and don't be so quick to write off Gunner, because we talked about this and we saw it happen with Brock leaving, right? If Gunner gets passed up, he's a Georgia boy, but is he going to sit around and just wait to start?
No, not at all. If Puglisi's named starter, Gunner's out the door. I mean, there's no way he's staying.
So you have to kind of be through there. Scott Anderson says the Oregon signing hit the portal. He did, but he went back to Cal. So he signed. I think he signed back with Cal, if I'm not mistaken. So, transfer portal. Then we'll go to the offseason changes. Transfer portal. Dawgs got 2 good ones today. Two good ones. Zachariah and Zion Branch announced they are transferring to Georgia. Both were from the USC. We're not talking South Carolina. We're talking Southern Cal. One is a wide receiver, Zachariah. He was a 5-star touted wide receiver. 3rd-ranked player in the transfer portal on Rivals.
That's
3rd-ranked, yeah. 47 receptions, 503 yards, 1 touchdown, averaged 10.7 a catch. Also a prolific punt and kick returner too, especially with the news that Anthony Evans has decided to enter the transfer portal today. Yeah. So him and Rashada both did that. Then Zachariah's, I think it's his older brother, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I think you're right. It is Zion's older.
Zion is a safety. He only played in 6 games, had 19 total tackles, 15 solo, and 1 sack. So those 2 guys, those are the first 2 guys for Georgia that have decided to transfer portal in. The wide receiver is highly touted, very touted. He's talented. He's 5'10", like 170.
Yeah.
I wouldn't watch this tape, and he's shifty. He's very quick with the ball in his hands. Now you have to get the ball in his hands, and then he didn't score a ton of touchdowns. I don't know if that's a USC thing or he had 1. Yeah. But he also had 47 catches, which would put him right kind of upper tier at Georgia. Andy, could you look that up for me? I think he would be, 4th maybe on the team at Georgia with 47 this year, maybe 3rd. Game-changing speed, though.
Yeah.
But again, another kind of tiny wide receiver.
So Dominic Lovick actually led the team with 59 catches for 607 yards. Arian Smith
far behind.
Arian Smith had 48 catches for 817 yards, and then Dylan Bell had 43. And Dylan Bell had 43. Yeah, so he would be slotted right there at 3rd. Yeah,
that's crazy.
So I think he's a good player. Alex Page asked Paul, is he like the former dog who's with the Colts but was drafted by the Bills? Isaiah McKenzie?
Yeah.
How big is Isaiah?
He was only like 5'8".
Smaller than that. Yeah,
he might be shorter than that, like 5'6".
Yeah. I think. That might be an actual decent comp though. If we're like actually trying.
I like that.
Find a comp.
Well, Paul, I understand your kind of hesitation because of the size, but let me just say, you got C.J. Wiley coming in at 6'4". You got Barber coming in. I mean, not Barber. Ellis Williams coming in at 6'7", 6'8". Colby Young might come back. There's another big receiver. So we got the size. If we have a spark plug who's small, so what? And he had 10.7 average on his catches. That's strong. Wouldn't you like 10.7 per average? I'd love that.
I'm not hating on the.
No. I know you're not.
I think it's a good pickup. It's just you go watch the film. You're not looking at this guy who's scoring touchdowns all the time and going for deep passes. He's catching the ball at the line of scrimmage and he's making the play, which
we do a lot of that. So that's we throw a lot.
What'd you say? He's catching the ball.
Yeah,
is that what you said? Okay, well then sold.
Isaiah McKenzie's 5'7". Yeah.
So he's bigger than Isaiah, but that's a good one to kind of comp to a little bit there. I think he's got a little bit of Mecole Hardman in him as well.
I was thinking kind of Mecole Hardman because I don't. Isaiah McKenzie didn't have that straight line speed maybe that Branch has. So, that's a good comp though.
But there is another wide receiver out there, Andy.
Mm-hmm.
There is
A&M.
And was he here this weekend?
He was 6'6",
big old dude. So
now you go turn his tape on Eddie. It's a little different.
Is it? Yeah,
it's a little different.
He actually looks like a. Not trying to sound negative, but like he looks like a stud wide receiver type. You know, like he looks like that's what you're wanting. So, but that may be a good combination: a big 6'6" giant and a 5'10" kind of shifty guy. So yeah, maybe that is what they're looking for.
So I turned on his tape and I was like, whoa, he's different. I even looked up Drake London's height and weight because he reminded me of Drake London. Drake London's 2 inches shorter than him, but he's a little bit. He's 213. This kid's 6'6", 200. Tell him who we're talking about, Andy, while we go to this next thing here. But yeah, that kid from Texas A&M, 8 touchdowns.
So while Andy's looking at that, I'm sorry.
His name's Noah Thomas. Go ahead. No,
yeah,
go
Noah
ahead.
Thomas.
I was just going to ask you guys, is this maybe working in our favor that a guy like Noah Thomas, the Zechariah Branch kid, is looking at Georgia and watching our receiving core this year and going, my goodness, I could take that over right now.
I mean, yeah, if you're a ball player and you're like, you watch that, you're like, yeah, dude, I could come in here and really help this football team.
Because I've heard a lot of people say that the wide receivers don't want to come to Georgia because we don't throw the ball around the place, all over the place. Right?
No, I would.
Yeah.
So he had 30. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, Justin Farmer says C.J. Wiley and Taylor are immediate impact wide receivers in my opinion, and Branch from the transfer portal. Yeah, they're going to be good.
And so you think about it, if you add Noah Thomas, like I said, 6'6" guy, he had 39 catches, so that would slot him a little bit less, but he had 574 yards. But here's what he had: 8 touchdowns. When you're 6'6", you know, maybe that's the guy that we need down at the goal line that we can just throw that ball up, throw that fade, that back shoulder.
I text a friend of the show. I asked, is that Noah Thomas guy a true X receiver? And I got back a GIF that was like literally like that. So he might not be a true X, but here's the other thing too. Colby Young very well could come back. He was with the team in New Orleans. I don't see him not coming back.
Yeah.
I plan to see him come back if anything crazy happens with that. And then Dom Lovett potentially could come back as well. I think. I'm pretty sure he can. I don't think he's. We
do know that Arian Smith. He's going to the Senior Bowl, right? So he will not be back.
Yeah. Hey, shout out to him, man. You have those jobs, and you still somehow manage to make it back and get to the Reese Senior Bowl. You know, so.
But Arian Smith.
Dash says Dominic Lovett's out of eligibility, but I could have swore I saw somewhere that he might. So take Dash's word over mine. But there's a lot of guys coming back for Georgia in that room.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Arian Smith, that pass that Eddie was talking about earlier from Gunner. I mean, it was great. And the Arian Smith, he almost one-handed that thing. I mean, that's kind of, he has some drops, but he had a good year, though.
Alex Page says, how many of the freshman receivers will be in Athens this spring? All of them, all 4 of them. They were in New Orleans for the Sugar Bowl with the team. Yep. So all 4 of them will be there, and that's huge. That is so huge. And if you got a chance to watch C.J. Wiley in that state championship game, and also his good friend Ethan Barber, who played for that same team.
Ethan Barber was a monster in that game.
Yeah. And then Ellis Williams.
He is a monster.
Yeah. He literal freak that just happens to play football. The same size as Darnell Washington, but can catch better than him is absolutely crazy. Guys, we will get to our M. Jones offensive changes. M. Jones Heating and Cooling, proud partner of UGAsports.com. If you have anything that you need your help with in terms of HVAC, we try to tell you guys prices were going up in 2025, switching over to different stuff in the coolant and refrigerant and antifreeze and all that good stuff. Eddie knows more about it than I do, but all that cool stuff that goes inside there and heats your house up and then cools it down, and that vice versa. Right, Eddie?
Yeah, well, I'll just jump in here. You know, I've been telling you guys, and Paul has too, that things are changing January 1st. Well, that's technically true, but we as a wholesaler can sell through that older equipment. So there's still stuff out there you can put in your home and get at a decent price. Now, who knows how long it'll last, March, April. So if you got a problem, take care of it now before that new refrigerant comes into play. And the boys at M. Jones will take care of that for you.
Is that just, sorry, Paul, I was going to ask, is that just a thing like when the equipment is like in the warehouse and you can sell it until it's gone?
Correct. As of December 31st, the manufacturers could no longer make it. So whatever we have in our warehouse, we can sell through this year.
And the 17 semis that they have sitting behind their warehouse that they were continue to sell for many, many years. No, mjoneshvac.com. There's their phone number there. You can email Matthew or Michael, two of the owners, and first, last name, email address, phone number, and message. We'll send it directly to them. If you put in that message, you got sent to them from UGAsports.com. You're in the Metro Atlanta area. 5% off of new systems, 10% off of your repairs. Great friends of the program and also of Georgia. So, like Marshmutt says, second chance. Buy now. I love Marshmutt, man. This is our M. Jones offseason changes. Andy, I'll go with you first. I see you've got 2 bullet points, so I guess we'll go 2 bullet points each. You could have put 3, and we'd all have to go 3. Could have put 1. You put 2, so we're going to go 2.
We'll go with 2. So my first one is the offensive line has got to do something different. Like, I don't know. I'm going to say we probably should go out and maybe look at a new offensive line coach, maybe get someone that's a little younger. Maybe he can relate to these guys a little better. I don't know. But we watched Georgia barely run the ball against Notre Dame. We had 315-pound average versus 270, and we couldn't
talked about going into the game.
All they talked about, and we couldn't bully ball those guys. You know, I said on the show, I was like, we're going to bully this team to death. We didn't. Something's got to change. That is Georgia's bread and butter. And, you know, we can sit here and let the guys tell us, oh, they don't throw. Who gives a crap if you can run the ball down their throat and kill them? And we couldn't do that. So I think we definitely need to make a change at the offensive line position and figure out why we're not bully balling. Yeah, all year, like CT saying. That was, to me, that's why we are sitting home. We were not able to bully ball them on the offensive line. So, yes, I would like to get a new offensive line coach and see what happens there. And then upgrade some pass catchers. But as of today, we already upgraded one, and it's a possibility we have another one coming in. So maybe that will be already done because we can't have guys dropping balls in the wide open field. So.
Two really good offseason changes, 2 easy offensive changes, like low-hanging fruit, but they're both they're the most pertinent things, I think, on this team.
You think about it. If we can bully ball people next year, if Gunner is our quarterback, he can easily learn on the job then because you have that running back. Because and even Eddie, you know, you talked about ETN. You were like, he's been a disappointment this year. And I get what you're saying. I do agree with that to a certain extent. But I think because of the offensive line issues, he was taking a negative 2-yard run and making it a positive 1. Yeah. I think with a dominant offensive line, I think ETN could go off. And he may be back next year. So
here's the only problem with that before I give it to you, Eddie, for your 2 M. Jones offensive changes is you got a lot of changes potentially on that offensive line and how much experience, because this was the year. Yeah. You had tons of experience on that offensive line. And your left tackle ended up getting hurt and not getting his job back until the final game of the season where they put him at right tackle. And then they put your right tackle, who's been there for 6 years, at left tackle. And now your right guard, he's going to the NFL. Your right tackle, he's gone. Fairchild, I would think, comes back, but he could get a good grade and go. Jared Wilson will be back, and you'll have Monroe Freeling and Ernest Green.
Yeah.
Hopefully Micah Morris as well. That's another guy that you got to retain, but he's going to have to.
Daniel Calhoun, you know, Coach Donnan always talks about Daniel Calhoun, about how talented this kid is. So.
And look, when I've learned this over the years, guys, if Coach mentions a guy multiple times, you listen. So Daniel Calhoun will be fighting for a starting spot, I would think.
Yeah, and Eddie, about that, he loves Gunnar Stockton. I will say that. So Jim Donnan does love Gunnar Stockton.
So there's that. Eddie, what's your offseason changes? You get dosed, my friend.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. Mine kind of bled into what Andy said because he wrote new O-line coach, and I just kind of took it another way with that. And you said bully ball, and that was kind of mine, is to play bully ball, which we haven't been doing, you know. Now that I think includes both the offensive line and the running backs, okay? And I think Nate Frazier plays bully ball a little bit better than ETN, if you want my honest opinion. But, you know, I thought the play of the game was when we stopped them on 4th and 2 and we got the ball back. I said, that's a massive stop. I think that was in the 4th quarter. We got the ball back, and then we ended up at 3rd and 2, didn't get squat.
Didn't do anything.
4th and 2, and they stuffed us. I mean, if you can't convert 2 yards with 2 downs, it's over. I mean, think about that national championship run, what we did to Bama with Zeus. You remember that death march where we went down and just destroyed them? That's what we need, and that's what we're missing, is just taking over football games with that running game, and it was almost non-existent this year compared to what it has been. The second one, the turnover margin. I think we finished -1 for the year or close to it. That's atrocious, guys. So not only are we giving the ball away, we need better ball security. We're not taking the ball away. I mean, how many times are you going to sit? I mean, on our text, we're like, we need a turnover here. We need a turnover here. And it never, ever came. Okay. We've got to get the ball away from the opponent and have better ball security on our side of the ball.
Get a new offensive coordinator. Get a new defensive backs coach.
Well, you just threw it right out there, didn't you?
There it is.
Well, okay. You say that, Paul. Is that realistic?
I think so. Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I do. And it's not that I don't want to say like it's all Bobo's fault, because last year Bobo did a really good job. And hell, if you look at it this year, honestly, with what he had to deal with that offensive line, like just not producing and wide receiver dropping the ball, like I think he did a pretty decent job, but he unfortunately is probably the fall man for all of this. And it's okay if he is. Like, I think he's at that point in his career where honestly he probably just want to be an analyst. Like, he's made his money. He had that kind of those health scares through and through. At this point, he's just like, it almost is like, did he just help Kirby out and give him a favor when Monken left and was like, yeah, I'll take over, man, so we don't have to go through anything crazy. And now it's like 2 years later, he's like, hey, man, can I go back to my analyst spot? Like, you still need me up here calling plays? I'll do it if you want me to, because we're boys. But, you know, it's also one of those things where I don't blame Bobo for everything, but I also think a change might be warranted. Now, I see Chris Taylor saying, like, go get Buster Faulkner. Now, I think Buster would be okay. If you're going to fire Bobo, I say go get somebody just completely different, just like they did with Todd Monken. Like, Todd Monken came out of nowhere.
He did come out of nowhere, and that was one of those,
came in and shook things up. Now he's got 7,000 yards under his belt with the Baltimore Ravens this year.
Ridiculous.
He'll be an NFL head coach next year. Go find the next Todd Monken. I don't want, and not to say Buster Faulkner would be a retread, but it would be very similar to what you're seeing now offensively, I believe. There would be some changes, but he's catered that offense at Georgia Tech around what Haynes King and that not that thinner offensive line can do. Mm-hmm. He's not going to do that same thing at Georgia. So go find somebody different. Is my point.
Do you have anyone in mind in particular, or you're just saying just go out and look?
Go find you the next Ben Johnson that works at the Detroit Lions, or somebody like that. Just, I mean, the offensive coordinator at Ole Miss was Charlie Weiss Jr.
Yeah,
be all right with that. Like just sling it around a little bit. I don't know, but that's my point. And then a new DB's coach, it obviously didn't. I don't think it worked out with Dante Williams, but I think he'll probably get another year. Would be my guess.
Yeah.
But it didn't look good back there. You had certain things going on. You just couldn't cover at some points. Wrong angles that were being run. So those two things would probably be the things that I would do there off-season wise. And because you guys already took the O-line coach. That was the easy one. But folks are going to be calling for Bobo to be fired. I don't know if it's the right move or not, but it's probably the right time if you're going to do it.
And that's kind of how I feel. Not necessarily that it's, he sucks, he's got to go, but it's one of those like, you know what, maybe it's time for a change. So.
Yeah, if you're going to do it, now is the time to do it, is what I'm getting at. If you let him stay around, then he's here, right? He's in Athens. Do
you guys think that if Nick Saban had just gone through a year like this, he would do no changes?
No.
Well, yeah. Nick Saban had to do changes every year because half his staff was poached from him. Yeah. So
okay, but in a down year, did he just, or down 2 years? I'll say. I know it wasn't down. You know what I'm getting at. For our standards, it was slightly down, and obviously the offense was way down this year. Would Nick Saban have allowed this to continue?
Well, Nick Saban had that kind of that gut check time when he was coaching. He looked in the mirror and said, you know what, I got to get Lane Kiffin. And he got Lane and he got Sark. Like, he's like, I got to change. And so I think this may be Kirby's like, okay, we got to make a change. And in which Kirby did that when he hired Todd Monken, but it's almost like we might have taken just a little step the opposite direction when we just went on with Bobo. But I think it's I definitely think Saban would look in the mirror and say, got to do it. And I think Kirby's going to.
Justin Farm with the $5 dono. We appreciate that, my friend.
JF.
He says, I agree, but Kirby likes Monken's system and probably wants to keep it. Getting a brand new OC would most likely change all that. It could, and that other system might be good.
Yeah.
You know,
might be good.
what is it? Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. You know, like it.
Is that a saying? I don't know that I'm familiar with that one.
Yeah, you're just old.
I know. Well, I am.
One guy that's not old, we'll bring in here real quick. He jumped in fairly early. We still have 9 minutes of show, Dane. You're trying to kick us off the channel, but we'll get you in here. There you are, and you can't take Andy's spot. That's my roll dog. You can push Eddie to the side, though. How you doing, Dane?
I'm well. How are y'all guys?
Good.
We were just going through our offseason changes. I don't know if you heard our offseason changes, but do you have two putting you on the spot very fast, very quick?
Dante Williams. Are you talking coaching staff or what?
Whatever you
it's a floor is yours.
So Andy said new O-line coach and upgrade the pass catcher. So it doesn't have to be coaching staff.
Oh, yeah. You have to upgrade receiver.
Yeah.
That's in progress today. So,
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Siri? Did Siri have an answer?
She said, sorry, I don't understand you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, to me, this is the funny part, though, is as much as everyone's like wringing the hands about, and I'm guilty of some of this too, of the quarterback play and the drops and everything. This was like by far the worst running team that Georgia's had under Kirby Smart.
Yeah.
Like a 40% drop in rushing.
But you also lost Del McGee. Like it's tough to replace the GOAT. You're good. It's just like the Patriots trying to replace Tom Brady. They got Drake May.
They try to replace Belichick, and they fired Mayo after 1 year. So
Yeah, I mean you're replacing the GOAT running backs coach. I don't know. I see where you're going with this, Dane. I don't know. I'm willing to give Crawford another year because you're replacing Dunwich. Like that's tough. That's really tough.
But to me, it's Georgia passed more, so there were fewer opportunities for big explosive running plays to happen. But they didn't run 39% less, like the productivity would tell you. So I don't know what the solution is there. Someone smarter than me would have to figure it out because I thought the offensive line was good this year for the most part. This last game, we're all going to be jaded toward that. But like that offensive line had talent.
What if Roderick Robinson, I know we can do what ifs all day long. What if Roderick Robinson and Branson Robinson are healthy this year? Is the running game that much different?
I don't think so.
You don't?
It could be. It could be. In my opinion, you got two different types of running backs than what you have right now.
Yeah.
You got that bully ball running back.
Yeah.
You kind of lean on. So I'm guessing one of yours is new running backs coach, Dane?
No, because I'm in the same boat that like I don't think it was bad enough to like replace Crawford in year one. That's such a small sample size with what's going on.
Yeah.
we saw that with kind of Trey Scott. There was a lot of talk about Trey Scott after his first year, and then his second year, everybody's like, "Oh, he's the greatest defensive line coach ever."
It might have been his first 2 years, actually.
Yeah.
It was 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
I'll say secondary coach. So like Dante Williams did not impress me. So I'll say that, and then I'll say Puglisi getting a legitimate shot at QB1 because I haven't seen enough from Gunner to be like, "Ooh, I have a lot of faith in that."
Somebody else said that on the show.
Somebody else. Offensive coordinator. No, that's not big on your priority list.
If Gunner is going to be the quarterback, I want Bobo to be the OC because I know that they click and they understand each other just from the long relationship. That's not a reason to go that route. But look, I get people not liking some things about Bobo, but he calmed down Carson Beck in the middle of the year when Beck's confidence was like trashed from all the interceptions, and he came back from that. To me, that's like the best sign that you can have from an offensive coordinator. And Georgia still like moved the ball a lot this year. Yeah. In the last 2 games, I don't know necessarily representative of what the offense was capable of.
Got Chris Hayes in the building, guys. Make sure you're following Coach on old YouTube. He breaks down the stuff. I was gonna say, damn, we got Brent in the background too. I was gonna say he does a really good job. But
well, he does. 2 things can be true at once, right?
Yeah, both of them can be good at what they do, right?
Right. Yeah.
Not saying either one of them. I would say Brent's better, right? Because we work together. So
Brent makes me sound smarter every week. So
Coach is good. did you want to stick around for UGA basketball, Dane, and Atlanta Falcons?
I can leave if you're trying to get rid of me.
No, I'm not trying to get rid of you.
10 minutes.
I'm just asking. I know my boy PhD could talk some ball with me though. Screw it. We'll just go 5 screen here.
5 screen.
You know what? I got to take Eddie up. I can't leave him down there by himself.
Thanks. Thank you.
I thought we talked UGA basketball.
Yeah, UGA basketball. Dawgs lost to Ole Miss 63-51, fall to 14-2 overall, and 0-1 in the conference. My bullet point here that I'd worked really hard on was what happened in the game that cost them? ? I think it's just their poor, terrible shooting.
29% from the floor, 2 of 18 from 3. Ball game.
Yeah.
Look how hard the shots. They don't get easy shots, and that's been my.
They had some decently easy shots. Blue Kane and Silas in the corner, they just clanked them.
Just missing shots.
Consistently. Yeah, shooting is an issue.
Yeah. The other question here is they play Kentucky Tuesday in Athens. Jeez. So I remember, I don't know if you remember if you went to any games or not, Dane, when you were a student there, but I went to, when I was a student one year, I think, who was it? Was it Dante Williams? No, Marcus Thornton. I don't know what Dante Williams. Who is that?
That's the defensive backs coach.
That's the DB coach. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
You got him on the brain.
Yeah, I got him on the brain. I said to get rid of him. He's just
fire
there.
him. Yeah, now he's on the
Marcus Thornton, Kenny Gain, like those guys. And Georgia was playing Kentucky. And I went, got my little nachos, went down to my seat, and I look up into the second level, and it's just nothing but blue.
Yeah.
Wrapped around the whole.
Oh, yeah.
When John Wall came, Charles Barkley came over from Atlanta to watch him. I remember that specifically because the student section went crazy over Charles Barkley.
2011, 2012, 2013, one of those years. Kentucky, obviously they flipped back and forth, but Kentucky came into town, and I just remember looking up and being like, "Dear God,
yeah,
they've got the whole stadium," and that's what I think Tuesday.
There's gonna be a lot of blue there.
I was gonna say that's what I was gonna ask. Is Tuesday gonna look probably close to the same?
Paul, my joke from those days was that John Florvius, he played power forward center for Georgia, that he never actually touched the basketball. He was on the floor and he did all the dramatic antics with the arms and he was an effort guy. I think he went 3 years and never actually touched the basketball in regulation.
They had Nimi Jurisic back then too.
Oh, Nimi, killer.
But
I'll never forget Paul going to. I think my son was 6 months old. And we took him to a game. And this was when Rondo was there for Kentucky. And Georgia's down 15. And they start making a comeback. And the place goes absolutely it's the loudest, one of the loudest games I've ever been in at the Stag. We had to leave because we're it's too loud because we took it. We're hey, we're going to take it to the game because it's normally not that big of a deal. Well, then it got insane for that game. And we were all right, we got to go. This is a little too loud for young kid.
Right. Alex Page, he never leads me wrong, so I'll put this up here. I do not know this for sure. He says Paul is returning from Mark Fox on Tuesday. Is he on that coaching staff?
Yeah.
Oh wow, boy. I didn't know
that. Is there cause for concern with this basketball team after seeing Georgia play in its first SEC game? Gentlemen, round table, Knights of the Round Table.
This is like a June loss for the Braves. Come on, it's early. Give it some time.
It's early. Ole Miss is good. SEC road team.
Road game.
Eddie is saying it's early. Dude, I have a text thread of stop saying it's early. Stop saying he did that.
No. That was not in March and April, jackass. That was later on. Later in the summer when you guys were I'm not worried at all. After the All-Star break. Just stop it.
Okay.
Just win most of the home games. That's you got to win most of your home games and you'll be okay.
My other bullet point here, like I said, I worked pretty hard on this guy, so I would like to get through it. Is this a must-win already against Kentucky on Tuesday?
Not at home. Since it's at home, is it a must-win because it's a home game?
I mean,
it's early. It's very early, but
I
there's so many heavy hitters. You got to get one of them.
Yeah.
That's kind of my point, Brent.
But when you imply must-win, you're saying you must win this to get in the tournament. And that's not
right, and I don't think that's the case either. Right.
No, but I also think, very much to Brent's point, there's too many good teams. You've got to be able to knock some of these teams off at home because you can't find the wins scattered through there if you don't win some of these games.
Oklahoma, Tennessee, Auburn, Arkansas, Florida, and South Carolina. That's the first unranked team we play coming up.
Gosh.
South Carolina. And they could be ranked by the time we play them. Who knows?
Yeah.
Real quick here, guys. We're running out of time. Our time's actually running out right now as I speak. There's the hour mark. Falcons lost Carolina Panthers today 44-38 to finish the season 8-9 and miss the playoffs for the 7th straight year. They would draft around 15. And then I put in quotation marks, this will probably be updated by Showtime, which it won't because I looked. The Dolphins still have to play. So we'll either have the 15th or 16th pick in the draft. Any positives from this season, guys? And real quick, any changes you'd like to see? Any positives? I guess I'll start. Penix looked decent, pretty decent year. The offense looked okay. I like
Drake London being really. He's had a really good year.
38 points. I don't think we put up that many points all year, except for 1 or 2 games, maybe. I'm cool with the offense. Defense, Jimmy Lake's he's GTG, brother. Got to go.
Yeah.
There's my opinion on that.
My positive was I had a tennis match at 1:00. It finished at 3:30. I got home, did not watch 1 second, and found out that Arthur Blank still owns the team. So that's all I need to hear.
That's your positive.
No, that's not a positive. The positive was I didn't watch a second of that crap.
Okay. I got an hour massage at 3:30. Great.
Well, I watched the end of the game and that sucked. So congratulations on the massage. So.
Thank you.
It's Penix though. That's you as a thrower. Like he's the real deal,
don't you? Yeah,
he's the real deal as a thrower of the football. Like the
bet
one he
that's
dropped in
gonna
the
hurt
bucket later to London
Yeah.
over the defense. That was insane.
But how much is it going to hurt Falcons fans next year when Kirk Cousins leads another team to a victory against them?
And he will. Bryce Young was 25 of 34 for 251 yards, 3 TDs, and 2 rushing TDs.
That's the most amazing thing in the NFL.
Yeah. If
Are
you
we
wanna
talking
be
about the guy that
good-
got benched for the Red Rockets?
Yes. Yep.
Like he was
The Red Rifle.
all-time bust levels
Mhm.
earlier in the year and completely flipped the script.
Yeah.
It was amazing to watch that. But no, the Falcons. I'm going to look up at the scoreboard, Paul, see what's going on here. I think this is kind of what Raheem does during the game. He just looks up at the
Coach
video
scoreboard.
board.
I'm glad somebody has look, little tiny rant here. Whenever they go to Kirby's talking on the mic. He's chewing somebody. He's telling them what to do. They go to Raheem. I haven't seen that man talk one time this season on the mic.
What is he doing out there? Yeah.
He's chewing gum, and he's Coach Jumbotron.
I'm like, surely they'll pay
Nobody's
him back
around
to-
him usually either. That's the most.
Right. Surely
You see like
surely-
nobody within 3 or 4 yards.
And you know what's
When they
funny,
go
Coach,
back
Doctor? You said this. We said the same thing about Arthur Smith. Nobody talked to him. He didn't talk to anybody. He did the exact same thing.
But when
and
they
were
put
watching
the
Raheem
camera on
Morris.
Arthur, at least he was talking.
Yeah, he was
I
yelling.
don't know
He
about
didn't
that.
talk one-
I don't know about that. He didn't
I
do
haven't
much.
seen him talk one time this season. I don't know what's going on.
Maybe
His
Raheem's
mic
just trying to understand how the roof works because it's kind of different.
right. He's like, I wonder if they'll ever open that mid game.
Yeah.
Then he goes to Arthur. He's like, look, I see some things while I'm kind of coaching. I see some things that we need to kind of fix up here. Make sure this thing can open and operate.
All those pieces work together like our offensive line should. There you go.
So,
Right.
Paul, one thing real quick. The only reason I jumped in was because I thought you asked a great question to Dane because I clicked on and you'd asked a great question to him about changes.
Oh,
I think one thing
yeah.
seriously needs to change for Georgia's football team. They need to let their pass rushers go
Yeah. Instead of
consistently and play 2 true edge guys and just let them go and create havoc and try to get TFLs and learn to live with an occasional bad play. Because I think that's the thing that they want to play such great team defense that they've now gotten swung completely to the opposite end where they make no difference making plays. Like outside of the Texas game, no difference, like no true game-changing plays. And when you had 3 top 20 picks, 3 first-round draft picks on your defense, and it's like, where were they sometimes? Jalen Walker, did some things and when he had some free third downs, but it's only then. Like that's one of the things you watch when you watch, say, like Texas or even Notre Dame, is just the freedom of movement that their pass rushers are allowed on a down-to-down basis. That doesn't exist here. And I think that's got to change because they've swung to the, hey, we don't really cause much of any havoc. Great team defense, not a lot of yards, force field goals. But in this world of college football, you have to now, when the teams are getting flatter and flatter each year, you have to be able to make the game-changing plays defensively.
Also, one reason the mobile quarterbacks can take advantage of that because there's not that much aggression up front.
Right. Look at there. Just in time for you guys to switch over to Film Don't Lie, really take over the channel, completely crush our views on this show, and completely crush our hopes of being a successful show.
That's right.
I think you guys are
All of
killing
our
it, Paul.
dreams and hopes.
Hey, I saw like the post-game thing had like, 200,000 views or something like that on Facebook, maybe? Is that right?
No
Yeah,
biggie.
but Doug, he's talking about this show, not that show.
But
Come
is that because
Oh,
I
it's
was
all
on it,
together.
not Roddy? Do I get to brag
No,
on
it
that?
was
Roddy?
ordained. Yeah. Before you guys leave out, man, hit that like button before you leave out. That would help us a ton. And then stick around. Really quick turnaround. Film Don't Lie will be on here. I'm guessing you guys are talking. Well, I'll let you describe it. All right. Anyways, Paul Maharry, Andy Stowe, Eddie from Acworth, Dane Young, Brent Rollins. We got 2 more shows, guys, and I don't have to deal with these 2 knuckleheads for 2 months. We'll talk to you then.